Let's look at another of our forefathers. You may be familiar with Noah and the ark and how the Most High destroyed the earth, the carnal understanding, with a flood, right? You know that these things actually happen carnally, but you need to get the spiritual understanding of what they represent. There is a reason the Most High destroyed the world, and the answer is in Genesis 6. We're going to read this again. We read it before, but this is why the Most High destroyed the earth by water the first time. All right? Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. Daughters means doctrines. I told you, when the Most High is talking about women, daughters, sisters, maids, damsels, he's talking about doctrines, okay? Daughters were born unto them, meaning they started creating doctrines, all right? Men started creating doctrines. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, so here you got the righteous, the so-called righteous, the descendants of Adam, saw the daughters of men, the doctrines of men that they were creating, that they were fair. So they started accepting those doctrines instead of the doctrine that the Most High had given the righteous. And they took them wives of all which they chose. All right, so they married those doctrines. Wives is talking about doctrines. They married the doctrines. They started following. Okay? And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, carnal. Yet his days shall be 120 years. So it's ticking the Most High off. Right? There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God, the righteous, came in unto the daughters of men, the doctrines that the men created, and they bear children with them. So they started teaching them. They started preaching about those doctrines. That's what it's talking about. They're opening churches and teaching the world these new doctrines. All right? The same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown. They became men of renown, giants, because they mixed those doctrines. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, because they were spreading those wicked doctrines, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. All right, so men started doing wickedness through those doctrines. All right, and it ticked the Most High off. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was the only person that the Most High found that was teaching the doctrine that he gave to Adam. Noah was a teacher. He was a preacher. A lot of y'all don't know that. But he was the only one teaching the doctrine that he gave to Adam. So that's why he chose Noah. Because Noah was righteous. The rest of those men, all of the sons of descendants of Adam, they was following other doctrines. Except for Noah and his house. All right? So now, that's why the Most High ended up destroying the earth. But let's get these daughters. Deuteronomy 7, verse 1. when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, possessing it in your mind, okay? Possessing that doctrine. And hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgasites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. We just told you about making marriages. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto them. You ain't gonna give them your doctrine unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. You ain't gonna take their doctrine and start following their doctrine. That's the warning he given to the children of Israel, because that's what they did before and caused them to destroy the world. We're going to go back to Genesis 22. Genesis 22 is when he told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering unto one of the mountains, which I will tell thee. Now he's saying his only son, right? Because he's his son, because he's following his doctrine. Ishmael did not follow the doctrine. So the Most High considers Isaac his only son. So when you start talking about sons, they're followers. They're followers. You hear people talk about their people's spiritual fathers, and that the people that's following them are their sons. They're followers. It's not talking about their actual bloodline descendants. The son is somebody that follows his father's doctrine. That's what son means. All right? We're going to go to John chapter 1. So you can see another son. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And verse 14, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. He's talking about Christ. That's his son. Christ did everything the Most High told him to do. He's the Word. He spoke what the Most High told him to speak. All right? So the Most High destroyed the world because the men of the world were following other doctrines. Now let's learn about how the Most High gave Noah a vineyard and made him a husbandman. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 9, verse 20. Okay? And Noah began, this is after he's destroyed the earth. The Most High has destroyed the earth. And now the only people that survive is Noah and his family. Right? So, and Noah began to be an husbandman. He made him a husbandman over this vineyard. And he planted a vineyard. A vineyard is the ministry. All right? That's his ministry. That's his land. Vineyard, land, ministry. Okay? And it says, and he drank the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. So it's telling you he got drunk on a doctrine, right? He was developing and was naked. It ain't talking about him physically naked. It's talking about he's in sin. And we're going to give you the precepts for everything I'm telling you. It's telling you he was in sin. It's not talking about him being physically naked. In his tent. So within his tent, house. Tent translates to church. All right? So he's developing the doctrine for this ministry. And he's gotten drunk off of a doctrine, meaning he's in sin. Because what he's developed, the Most High don't agree with it. All right? So now it says, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. So Ham heard the doctrine and began to spread it to his brothers Shem and Japheth. All right, so y'all see that. It's saying the father of Canaan. It's saying that for a reason. Remember, we just told you what sons mean. All right, but we're going to keep going. All right, and Shem and Japheth took a garment. We just told you, garment means doctrine, right? And laid it upon both their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backwards, and they saw not their father's nakedness. So it's telling you that they corrected their father. All right? They covered his nakedness. All right? When they heard the doctrine, they knew it was wrong and corrected Noah. They covered his nakedness with garments, a doctrine, meaning they showed him, no, Father, what you're saying is wrong. Remember, this is what the Most High said we're supposed to be doing, not this. This is the doctrine here. You've added something that doesn't go with what the Most High said. So they're covering his nakedness, right? Ham did the opposite and uncovered Noah's nakedness, or not calling out sin. That's what uncovering nakedness means. You see somebody in sin and you don't correct them. That's uncovering the sin. All right? So, let's keep reading. Verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son, had done unto him. All right. So it's saying Noah awoke from his drunkenness. That means he repented from his error and accepted that correction. All right. And he knew Ham had encouraged him in sin and not corrected him. In Leviticus 18, those verses that talk about uncovering nakedness are talking about not correcting incorrect doctrines when you hear them. Ham did not molest his father. I know there's a lot of people out there believing, Ham was looking, cross-eyed at his daddy and picking at his daddy and all this other stuff. It ain't talking about that. All right. He ain't did no molesting of his father. It's not, you can't be carnal. When you think carnal and you listen to these carnal men, they will lead you to believe foolishness. That's what when it talks about those Jewish fables and all that, that's people making stuff up. All right. The Most High ain't said that Ham molested his father. Okay. He just didn't correct him. He went along with that sin. And the Most High don't like that. All right? So you have to stop listening to these carnal leaders. Nakedness means in sin. We're going to get you all the precepts. So then it goes on and says, verse 25. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Okay, so he's cursing his son, his followers. Y'all see that? Carnally, yes, he cursed Ham, son, named Canaan. But spiritually, it means he cursed his sons or his followers. Son means followers spiritually. So it's telling you something that's going to happen in the future. All right? Noah curses the children or followers of Ham's doctrine and for not calling out that wickedness. All right? It's not saying that the Africans, because the descendants of Ham are primarily the Africans, okay? It's not saying Africans can't get the kingdom. All right? That's not what it's saying. All right? It's saying the followers of Ham's example, children of followers. That's why it cursed Canaan, his son, child. For example, the children of Israel are the follower of Israel's doctrine. All right? Of overcoming the old man and converting to the spiritual man. Those are the followers of Israel. That was his example. He overcame the old carnal man and he was reborn spiritual. It's the same thing Christ did. He conquered death. So he went from a carnal man to a spiritual man. Those who the children of Israel are the people that follow that covenant. The covenant of killing the old man and transforming to spiritual. That's what that means. So the sons of Ham are the people who follow Ham's example of not correcting sin. That's what it's talking about. It ain't talking about Africans. It's not talking about Africans. All right? So then it says, and he said, blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Y'all see that? So now, it's a lot going on in those couple of verses. All right? Then Noah blesses both Shem and Japheth, and says Japheth will dwell in the tents of Shem. This is a prophecy of the Gentiles being in the house of the righteous. He telling you, the Gentiles who convert are going to get the kingdom because Israel is of the line of Shem. He telling you, the Gentiles who align with the righteous are going to get the kingdom. No one can disannul the blessing Noah gave to the Gentiles. Nobody. That prophet said that them Gentiles gonna dwell in the tents of the righteous. That's what's gonna happen. So, regardless of your nationality, if you are of a race other than an Israelite, Noah is saying in the future, you're going to dwell in the tents of the righteous, which is Shem's tents. Y'all see that? He said the servants, the people who ain't going to make it, are going to be the people who follow the example that Ham had. His followers, his sons. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? So a lot of this stuff is spiritual, but you're unable to see it because you think carnal. But Noah's telling you, the Gentiles are going to be redeemed in the end. That's a blessing. Most High got to honor that. So let's get the precepts so that you get what the majority of this stuff is saying about this doctrine that the Most High, this ministry, this land, this vineyard that he gave to Noah. So let's get what a husbandman is. We're going to go to Mark chapter 12, verse 1. I'm going to read it kind of quick. And he began to speak unto them by parables. You notice when it's talking about parables, it's talking about he talking spiritual. What he about to say is spiritual, and most people ain't going to understand what he's saying. But we want to get the part about the husbandman. All right. So that you understand a husbandman is a prophet. All right. These go along with that precept of what a husbandman is. And he began to speak unto them by parables. A certain man planted a vineyard. Vineyard is a land, a ministry, and set an hedge about it, and digged a place for the wine fat, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. It's talking about the Most High. He got them prophets who he got over his vineyard. Y'all see that? And at the season he sent to the husbandman a servant, that he might receive from the husbandman of the fruit of the vineyard. He's talking about he's sending them people to learn from these prophets. And they caught him and beat him and sent him away empty. They are not doing their job. They're supposed to be teaching these people. He's telling you what's happening right now. And again he sent unto them another servant, and at him they cast stones and wounded him in the head, and wounded him in the head. His doctrine, the doctrine that they're giving him, they teaching him wrong, and sent him away shamefully handled. And again he sent another, and they killed, and many others, beating some and killing some. They converting them to that stupid doctrine that they got. Verse 6, having therefore one son, his well-beloved, he sent him also last unto them, saying, they will reverence my son. That's what the Most High said. They gonna reverence my son. Let's see what happened. But those husbandmen said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance shall be ours. Y'all see that? That's what's happening right now. These people want that renown. They don't care that Christ and the Most High supposed to get the glory. They want the glory. All right. And they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. All right. What shall therefore the Lord of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the husbandmen and will give the vineyard unto others. He's talking about that ministry. Husbandmen are prophets. Their vineyard is the ministry. That's where they teach the people. The people come to them to get food. So, that's letting you know. That's letting you know. Husbandman, vineyard. Vineyard is a ministry. Vineyard is the land. Field is the land. Garden is the land. Y'all see that? Let's get another example of one of these husbandmen. Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 24. And there shall dwell in Judah itself, and in all the cities thereof together, husbandmen, and they that go forth with flocks. So it's comparing husbandmen to people that go forth with flocks, shepherds. It's letting you know a husbandman is a prophet. Prophets have vineyards, land that they keep for the Most High, meaning they teach the people. They give the people the food of the garden, the land. They till the ground. Y'all get it? All right. Let's go to another one. Let's go to another one to tell you about that wine that Noah was drinking. We're going to go to Genesis 14:18. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. Bread and wine. That's doctrine. He's a priest. Right? So that wine is understanding. That's his doctrine. All right? That's his doctrine. The wine is a doctrine. So Moses was drunk on a doctrine. Y'all see that? Let's get another one. You've heard this one before, but it wasn't explained like this. You're going to see it in a different light here in a second. We're going to go to Genesis 49:12. His eyes shall be red with wine, meaning when Christ come, he going to have a doctrine. His eyes going to be red with a doctrine. And his teeth white with milk. We read earlier. The milk was understanding. That's what Paul was teaching them people. He was teaching them the milk. That's a doctrine. Y'all understand that? So it's when it's talking about that wine, it's talking about a doctrine. Noah was drunk on a doctrine. All right? And y'all know when the Most High start talking about liquids, whether it's talking about milk, honey, wine, blood, whatever he talks about, generally when he's talking about something liquid, he's talking about a doctrine. All right? So let's get this naked part, because I don't think y'all know what the naked is talking about. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 32, verse 25. And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. Aaron made them naked whenever he got them in sin after he made that idol, that golden calf. When he made that golden calf and those people started worshiping that calf, that idol, he made the people naked, meaning they was in sin. We're going to find another one for you. So when you're talking about Moses, it ain't talking about nakedness, physical nakedness. It's talking about being in sin. All right? You got to learn how to read this book. Because if you learn how to read the book, then no one can come and beguile you with their stupid doctrines. Because you're going to know more than them. You're going to know what these words mean. We're going to go to 2 Chronicles, chapter 28, verse 14. So the armed men left the captive and the spoil before the princes and all the congregation. And the men which were expressed by name rose up and took the captives, and with the spoil clothed all that were naked among them, and arrayed them, and shod them, and gave them to eat and to drink, and anointed them, and carried all the feeble of them upon asses, and brought them to Jericho, the city of palm trees, to their brethren. Then they returned to Samaria. So it's letting you know that them people, they went and corrected their brothers, and they blessed their brothers, right? Because the brothers was naked. They went to war, and the Most High didn't tell them to go to war. They went to war with their brothers, and they lost. they turned around and they corrected their brothers and sent them back to their homeland. All right? Let's get something else, because we talked about that tent. We talked about a tent, right? And quite often when the Bible is talking about tents, it's talking about churches. All right? So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 26 and verse 17. And Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. So it's telling you, Isaac was a teacher. He pitched that tent. He set up a church. Y'all don't know. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the land of our forefathers, was the ministry the Most High gave them. That doctrine. They set up churches. He pitched a tent. That's a house. His house. The people under his house follow his doctrine. That's his church. A tent is his church. Y'all see that? Verse 18. And Isaac digged again the wells of water which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father. His father was preaching in that land too. Y'all see that? For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. Now, you in a land, well, a physical land, where it ain't a whole lot of technology, and somebody dig a well. And as precious as water is, you think somebody gonna stop up a well? It ain't talking about actual water. It's saying after Abraham died, they closed his church down. Isaac came up and came and started preaching just like his daddy did. But they didn't like Abraham teaching in that land. And he called the names after the names which his father had called them. Them churches, he gave them the same names that Abraham gave them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen. So whenever they were setting up them churches, them people in the land, in the area, they didn't appreciate that. They didn't like Isaac teaching out there, saying, this water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. You see that? They didn't like him preaching. They had their own beliefs out there, and they didn't like that he was taking them people and converting them people, just like Abraham was doing. Y'all see that? Over time, y'all gonna start, the stuff is gonna be automatic, man. You're gonna hear it and you're gonna be like, boom, 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 boom. And you're gonna know exactly what it's talking about. It ain't talking about them fighting over water. It's talking about them fighting over that doctrine that Isaac was teaching in that land. They didn't like that. That's what the Bible's saying. These carnal preachers and these carnal leaders of these organizations, they don't know anything, okay? Those guys are sitting up and they're telling you a bunch of lies and they're taking your money. If you don't know that your forefathers was teaching other people, then you might believe the lie when they tell you you ain't supposed to teach other people. But the Bible telling you your forefathers did it. It's telling you what to do. It's telling you Christ did it. So at the end of the day, you have to be able to understand what the words are saying so you don't get tricked by those thorns, those Pharisees, those beasts of the field, those fowls of the air. Once you're able to read it for yourself, you don't have to worry about that. All right, let's go to Exodus. Get you another example. Exodus so you can know what this tent means. Exodus 39 and verse 40. It's talking about that tabernacle out there in the wilderness. The hangings of the court, his pillars and his sockets, and the hangings of the court gate, and the hangings for the court gate, his cords and his pins, and all the vessels of the service of the tabernacle for the tent of the congregation. Tent of the congregation. That's church. Y'all see that? Tent of the congregation. A tent is a church, house, mansion, cave, any type of dwelling. Okay? It's talking about a church, a congregation. Y'all see that? All right. So then it started talking about he had to awake out of that from that wine after his sons corrected him, after Shem and Japheth corrected him. He awake from that drunkenness. All right. So we're going to go to Romans 13 so we can give you the understanding of that. I tell you, whenever you finally are able to sit and read and understand what the book is saying, it's amazing what it does for your faith. Because a lot of you have never heard what is being brought out because you don't understand what the Most High is saying. It's talking about something deeper. Okay? So now, Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than we believe. So it means awake out of sleep. Stop sinning. All right, it's talking about you have to start doing the commandments. So that's what Noah did. He awoke from that drunkenness. All right, and he started doing, once those boys corrected him, he started doing what he was supposed to do. That's what it means to awake. All right, stop sinning, repent. Okay, we got 1 Thessalonians. Let's go there. Chapter 5, verse 6. Therefore, let us not sleep, and as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night. We told you night means ignorance. And they that be drunken are drunken in the night, meaning ignorance. It means they don't have any understanding. But let us who are of the day, wisdom, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet, the hope of salvation. Y'all see that? So when it's talking about awake, it's talking about keeping those commandments. That's what happened to Noah after he got corrected. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 34. Awake to righteousness. Y'all see that? And sin not. For some have not the knowledge of God. I speak this to your shame. Awake to righteousness. Stop sinning. Keep the commandments. That's what Noah did. Okay? So now, you should be confident in the definition of the land. When you hear the word land, garden, field, pasture, valley, border, Jerusalem, Zion, or the name of a city or a country, oftentimes the Bible is speaking about a doctrine or ministry related to the subject. The word tent, house, temple, mansion, cave, den, or any other type of dwelling is speaking of a church or congregation. Y'all see that? So when you hear about the land of milk and honey, it's talking about the ministry of milk, which is understanding, and honey, sweet understanding. The valley of the shadow of death. Valley, that's a ministry. Shadow, darkness, ignorance, and death. Y'all see that? The land of Egypt. Egypt means captivity. It's talking about the ministry of captivity. It's talking about the carnal law. All right? The land of our forefathers is the ministry that the Most High promised to our forefathers and their seed. Spiritually, that means anyone who picks up this covenant and walks according to the example that Christ left us. All right? So that's the class on the land. I hope you're able to go and watch this again and get more understanding. Look at the precepts that we gave you so that you can get a better understanding. So whenever you start seeing the land and the garden and the beast of the field and stuff, you understand what it's talking about. It's not talking about a physical land. You have to look at this book spiritually. And once you understand spiritually, you will be able to get the understanding that you need in order to kill the old man. And with that, I'm going to bid you shalom.